Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Today we'll focus on what Ameca has discussed and shared with all of us, the robotic job takeover. And it is here. Today we'll look at two professions. The first one is Amazon warehouse workers. Their jobs look like they're on the line. It's on the line. Many of the jobs, but not immediately. And here's Ameca sharing with us news about the imminent job displacement dilemma.
Job displacement as AI automates certain tasks. There are concerns about job losses in some sectors. We need to prepare for these changes by investing in education and training programs that equip people with the skills needed.
Amazon has created a new robot and implemented it, and they refer to it as the Vulcan. It's a phenomenal robot. And it even can sense or feel this particular robot in terms of the package. Is it soft? Is it hard? It's phenomenal. And not to scare anyone, but I believe that a lot of jobs within the next year will be taken by this particular robot. There's two pilot programs. One is in Spokane, Washington, and they have about 30 of these Vulcan robots. And then the other one is in Germany, Hamburg, Germany. And they have just as many, I think a few more than Spokane.
We went to Spokane, Washington to get the world's first look at Vulcan, fully in use on the warehouse floor, and ask its lead creator exactly how it works, why it's a game changer, and what's stopping robots from replacing all the people except for some drive units. Most of Amazon's robots, including Vulcan, operate behind a fence
to make sure that everyone around them is safe.
Robotic arms like Cardinal, Robin, and the newer Sparrow have been moving items and packages around in Amazon warehouses since 2021. But those primarily rely on cameras for detection and suction for grasp.
So we give the robot a sense of touch using a sensor that measures force in all three directions.
Aaron Parnes spent 10 years developing robotics for space at NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory before joining Amazon in 2019. Now he leads the team that developed Vulcan. Final result, Vulcan is a three-part system. An employee puts an item from these yellow bins onto a conveyor, where it's picked up by the first part, a moving robotic structure called a gantry.
Which is a robot that moves horizontally and vertically. We'll take that bag of Skittles and put it into our buffer wall. It waits there until the robot makes a match. So the robot brain is looking for an opportunity where it can create enough space to put that bag of Skittles.
Next, it's picked up by this robotic round foam disc.
We affectionately call that the squash turner. So it reorients the item, kind of like it sounds. Things like books where you want the titles facing out, or things where you need to align it so that it'll fit in the space.
Finally, the item is picked up by the gripper.
It has conveyor belts built in, and so the item feeds forward and backward. So the gripper has a sense of force on its grasp axis as well. So we don't squeeze a bag of Skittles as strongly as we squeeze a physics textbook.
That precise amount of pressure and torque is determined by an AI-powered sensor. This is the sense of touch that until now, experts say hasn't been put into commercial use in robotics.
The other thing that's super cool here is this guy. It's an extended sort of spatula, and the force sensor, the thing that we're feeling the world, sits right behind here, right on that spatula.
This new ability to adjust pressure means Vulcan can handle up to 75% of the 1 million unique items in inventory here in Spokane. Amazon's Sparrow robotic arm can handle some 60% of items, while Robin and Cardinal only manipulate packages.
We're also using generative AI to predict how the items are going to move. So if I push on the t-shirt, is it going to compress? Versus if I push on the bowling ball,
Vulcan's final step, finding the perfect spot to stow the item, adds some major efficiency gains for Amazon.
One of the use cases we have for AI is predicting how much space we can make in a bin, and then taking the right item that maximizes the filling of that predicted space.
So a bit like Tetris.
It is a bit like Tetris. To me, it doesn't matter if the robot has legs or wheels or it's bolted to the floor. I think the thing that makes the robot useful is having that sense of touch so that it can interact in high contact and high clutter environments. That's the tipping point for me, and I think we're right there, and it's so exciting.
Amazon says Vulcan operates at about the same speed as a human for now, but it also doesn't need to rest.
We have downtime for maintenance and repairs and those kinds of things, but the robot is able to operate, 20 hours a day.
One of the primary reasons that robotics is so profound now is that they work 24 hours a day, whereas humans only work a fraction of that. So that's why they have the upper hand now.
Which begs the question, why wouldn't Amazon replace all its workers with robots?
If you build a terribly complicated automated system and it breaks, then everything stops. Taking out the last human is so expensive, it's so disruptive. It would be a huge investment and an enormous risk.
Instead, Amazon says Vulcan will create more jobs that are higher skilled, saying it spent more than $1.2 billion on free training to upskill 350,000 of its workers in the last 5 years.
Well, it makes sense to keep a few humans around these massive robots, just in case the equipment breaks down or there's, mechanical problems.
The new jobs are going to be in maintaining and operating the robots, in installing and building the robots.
I think it will be an increase in more interesting jobs and a decrease in the dull, the dirty, and dangerous.
Humans and robotics will need to be working closely together.
In her 16 months at Amazon, Carrie Freitas-Hardy has moved from picking to working with the robots, helping when they run into issues.
See the growth potential, because that is where it does increase jobs on the backside.
Freitas-Hardy says she's not making more money in her new role. But Amazon does have a free mechatronics and robotics apprenticeship program, which it says typically leads to pay increases of about 40% in new roles like those at a fulfillment center in Louisiana.
Young and old, for those of you that are concerned about your current positions, this is a great opportunity to get into that apprentice program that Amazon offers.
There are 10 times more robots than you would find in a building like we're in today. They have the same 2,500 full-time, part-time workers that we have here, but 30% more of those jobs are high-skill technical jobs.
One reason Vulcan can't replace people is that it only handles items up to 8 pounds, and certain shapes like round objects are hard to manage. But it does move fast, which is why it'll remain behind this fence.
Because we want to go super fast at stowing items, the robot's moving quickly, and so it is much safer just to keep it behind a fence.
The robotic drive units on the floor with workers are controlled by QR codes and radio signals coming from special vests worn by workers like Freitas-Hardy, so they know to slow down and avoid her.
So our pods are moving at quite a little bit of a pace, and you do not want to get run into by a pod. It could drag you around the floor. So again, safety is key here.
In fact, one of Vulcan's key objectives is to improve worker safety by stowing and picking in the less ergonomic high and low shelves. Limiting workers to mid-height shelves, the so-called power zone, could lower the chance for worker injuries.
All day long on repetitive motions. I'm up and down the ladder, I'm squatting, I'm lunging. I hurt my knee because I was personally doing some bad body mechanics. I know that as a picker, if I had an innovation like this where I could have stayed within my power zone, my days would have been just so much easier.
One of our key metrics we look at is safety. So what percentage of the stows is it doing to the top 3 or 4 rows where the employee would have to reach overhead? We have a plan for that metric to get to 100%.
It says it took 3 years and a team that's grown to 250 people. Ann Parnas says Vulcan is a huge business opportunity.
But Vulcan can interact with the world in a more human-like manner.
I wanted to reiterate that Spokane, Washington, and Hamburg, Germany. Both have the Vulcan robots. It's like a pilot program. Okay, next up are the chefs. So the first one is more for fun. He gets the job done in an extremely fast manner. Second one is an actual robot that cooks just like a chef. But I think they're a little bit more accurate. But still, I believe a lot of people will prefer a human being cooking their food as opposed to a chef robot. Check them all out. Is he cooking that food or what?
This is the most advanced cooking robot in the world. With this robot, people will no longer need to cook for themselves and can even make money with it. First, it pours eggs and oil into the pan and starts stir-frying. Then, it adds vegetables and meat into it. The robot uses multiple stir-frying techniques, such as shaking the pan or stirring with a spatula to ensure proper cooking. Next, its robotic arm picks up the rice and adds it to the pan, mixing it with everything else. Once the set stir-frying time is reached, it lifts the pan and pours the contents through a funnel into a bowl. The fried rice is now ready. This is the most advanced cooking robot in the world. With this robot,
Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe. Until my next video, goodbye.